we're moving on to our time management knowledge area. And similar to the last knowledge area, we have a management plan at the top of the list. Plan schedule management is a process where we develop the schedule management plan. So we have an idea as we're working the project whether or not we have the tolerance to be a little bit behind schedule. And so our schedule management plan is a formal document that requires a change request once it's been authorized, and it also is part of your overall project management plan.
And now you've got your schedule management plan, you begin to carry it out. So you define activities, which is really creating a list of activities. It doesn't have to be in order, but then you also create something called activity attributes, which further define the activity.
Once we've defined our activities, we can sequence them, put them in order. Do we need one activity to finish before our next activity starts? Or are we able to overlap some activities in perhaps a start-to-start fashion or a finish-to-finish action? This is very often done in software without people thinking that they're actually going through a PMI process, but it is very important in order to develop your schedule.
And you know, lots of PMs are guilty of that. Without remembering what really happens, they open up MS Project and they just go to town. But they forget the software is actually thinking logically about things like estimating activity resources. Remember, MS Project, garbage in, garbage out. But if you're really thinking properly, you ask yourself, okay, I've sequenced them in a particular way. Now, who do I have available? And also, you think about the effort. Because when you think about the resources, think about the effort they're going to be expending. This is a little bit different from saying, oh, my project's going to take 10 weeks. That's not what you're doing here. You're thinking about effort, hours, and ultimately the people working on the project and how they work could determine what happens next.
And then we add up the level of effort, those hours, so we're able to estimate how long each and every activity will take, and ultimately we'll have an idea of how long our project will take, because our project is adding together all of the sequenced activities that make up the various paths in our project so that we know the activity duration.
And after knowing the activity durations, you've got all you need to develop your schedule. Put that schedule together in whatever software, maybe use Excel, doesn't matter. Compile all the information and develop a final schedule. Also, baseline the schedule. Take a snapshot. And, you know, after you get your schedule baseline, you need permission to change it once management has put the seal of approval on it.
Well, we are going then to monitor our schedule. We'll be monitoring the output of developed schedule, essentially, and that is called control schedule. It's not monitoring and controlling schedule is the name of the process, but we are monitoring and then we are making the necessary change requests, or maybe we're compressing the schedule without having to make a formal change request. But what we're doing is we're trying to prevent delays because we're ahead of the curve here. We're paying attention to what our baselines are and what our actual numbers are, our actual dates, milestones, where they're coming, whether or not they've been missed, and so hopefully we can maintain schedule compliance.
And remember that as you think about time management, it goes very closely with cost. So how you choose to do this could be dependent on what exactly happens in cost. So the first thing we do in cost management is we plan cost management. We come up with a cost management plan, and this plan tells us units of measure and tolerances and so on that are permissible. But we're developing a plan for how to determine and manage the cost aspects of a project.
Now we're going to estimate our costs. Estimating costs is where we're taking a look at all those activities that we defined and what their durations are and the resources that will be associated with those activities and any contracts that we have signed that we know about. We even look at some of the other things within other areas, like do we have testing costs for quality? Are we going to incent our resources? Are we going to pay for training? All of these elements make up our estimate costs, but we also want to document what the basis of those estimates are so that we can know, was I pretty sure or was I definitely sure? Because that is going to help us ultimately with the next process and the rest of our project.
And being as sure as you can be is really going to help you when you look at the big picture of the damage done from your estimates. We call that determined budget, where you put together the final big budget, you add up all of those activity cost estimates, and you come up with a total budgeted amount for the project. We also refer to this as a cost performance baseline sometimes.
Well, we need to control our costs, so we've hopped over into the monitoring and controlling knowledge area here, and this is where our earned value techniques come in, and we're taking a look at what our baseline cost is, our cost baseline, and what our actual costs are to make sure that we can still meet the mark that we agreed to with our project.
And as we think about that, don't forget quality management is very important. So the first thing we do here is we plan quality management. Emily mentioned the cost of quality, and that is really thinking, how much are we going to spend on testing? How much are we going to spend to ensure destructive testing loss is implemented in the project somewhere if necessary? But we develop a plan for how to manage project quality and how to improve on project processes. We also get a plan from here called the process improvement plan. So there are two plans: the quality management plan and the process improvement plan from here.
Now we've moved into the executing process group, where we will do perform quality assurance. Quality assurance is all about the processes that need to take place in order to develop that deliverable. This is where we're assuring stakeholders that the work is being performed as planned.
And you know, it's one thing to ensure the work is being performed as planned by checking the process, but you also need to check the product. So we're hopping across to monitoring and controlling. In this one, we are controlling quality. And to control quality, you want to inspect the deliverable. You want to make sure that that deliverable is fit for use and conforms to requirements. Now, a bunch of other things could happen here. It could be that you got an approved change request to change something on the project. So guess what? When you get here, you make sure those changes are now inherent in the deliverable as you're inspecting it. And we get something called a verified deliverable, which is very important in this process.